that brings us back to petition number 1885, which is to make offering community shared ownership mandatory for all wind farm development planning proposals. This petition has been lodged by Karen Murphy, and it calls on the Scottish Parliament to urge the Scottish Government to make community shared ownership a mandatory requirement to be offered as part of all planning proposals for wind farm development. It was last considered on 26th of June last, and at that time we agreed to write to the Minister for Energy and the Environment. We've received a response from the Minister for Climate Action which states that the Scottish Government continues to explore all avenues to enhance the provision of community benefits and shared ownership. The response highlights the use of devolved tax powers to provide non-domestic rates relief for renewable energy producers. And under the Renewable Energy Generation Relief, up to 100% rates relief is offered for those providing community benefit. The petitioner's written submission emphasises that this demonstrates the Scottish Government's ability to use tax powers to increase community shared ownership. However, her view is that it is not an effective scheme. She points out that the developments with profits over £4 million are offered a 2.5% relief in non-domestic rates and argues that this is not sufficient as an incentive for developers. The Minister's response also states that the Scottish Government continues to engage with the UK Government on a range of areas which support communities to benefit from energy transition, including shared ownership and consideration of mandating community benefits. Mr Ewing.
Yes, thank you, Convener. I know that Gillian Martin has taken a close interest in this, and from statements in the Chamber and outside the Chamber that she has a keen interest in pursuing this. I am aware of a number of dynamic developments that are taking place at the moment. For example, in the Republic of Ireland, I believe they now mandate community benefit at the rate, in effect, of €8,000 per megawatt. That's compulsory. Here, the £5,000 per megawatt is not mandatory because there is no legal powers to do so, as has been noted by the Scottish Government. There is, however, a movement in that. I understand, I've just been informed of this yesterday by a senior official at HIE, that SSEN are to set up some model of community benefit for upgrades to pylons and infrastructure, which currently is not applicable. So that's a new development, and I'd be keen to find out more about that. In addition to that, there is at least one offshore wind developer, namely Blue Float Energy, together with Nadara, N-A-D-A-R-A, who are considering and promoting community ownership for offshore wind. And that would be an example that many other projects may wish to follow, which could have enormous importance. And finally, coupled with that, I understand that the UK government is not unsympathetic to some kind of scheme for community ownership, and one wonders if that might actually be one of the most practical purposes for which GB Energy's funding could be used, possibly along with the Scottish National Investment Bank, and HIE themselves have a close interest in taking all this forward because so much of the activity is in the Highlands and Islands, Convener. So, although I appreciate we're moving towards the end of this session of Parliament, I think that all of these developments, and probably others of which I'm unaware, indicate that I would be keen to write again to the Acting Minister for Climate Action to ask for further information as to when the energy strategy and just transition plan will be published, whether specifically it will contain proposals for this and some detail of the work that's being done, I believe, with the UK Government, and possibly a ministerial statement at some point, perhaps in the autumn. I think the growing interest in this throughout the country, the growing concern about some aspects of renewable energy and visual impacts in Aberdeenshire, the Highlands and many other parts south of Scotland is such that, I think that this is an idea whose time has come, and if we don't get on with it now, we in Scotland and Britain will be losing a trick. So I'm sorry to go on about this for so long, but I do think there's compelling reasons to keep this petition open and to allow the petitioners a full opportunity to benefit from what seems to be a congenial political environment now.
Thank you. Mr Ewing's made proposals. Mr Golden.
I agree with Mr Ewing. I think as part of the response from the Scottish Government, it would be useful to know I think Mr. Yoon mentioned some of the more formal mechanisms, but there may well be some informal mechanisms in terms of engagement to encourage community benefit overall. I think the petition's relatively narrow in it, but actually, shared ownership, making it mandatory. I know for some wind farm developers that obviously can affect the asset base for the developers, but it might be that in the wider scope of community benefit that meets some of the requests of the petitioner. So I think it'd be useful to get on record, I mean, particularly given we don't know when the energy strategy will be published, what the overall approach to community benefit in the round is.
Okay, so we have proposals keeping the petition open, making inquiries as have been suggested by Mr Young and Mr Golding. Are we agreed? We are, so we'll keep the petition open on that basis. Petition number 1919 to ban the sale of